What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Morning Vibe. We are shooting today from here in the gorgeous Florida Panhandle up in Northwest Florida. Hope you guys are having a great day, whether you're watching near, here, or far. We appreciate y'all being here with us for the Morning Vibe. This morning, we're going to get scandalous. We're going to get scandalous, y'all, because I'm telling y'all right now, the biggest fishing scandal in the history of tournament fishing came to a close yesterday. And it's not a joke, 100%. As I'm sure many of you guys remember, we're going to dive right into it this week. So I'm kind of pumped up on this because I don't want to say I told you so, but I kind of told you so. And here's what I'm getting at. So basically, hang on, my phone is doing talk to text right now. It is freaking out. It's going to be the longest text in the history of ever. We don't need to be doing all that. All right. So I'm sure you guys remember back in September of last year up at the Lake Erie Walleye Tournament, Kaminsky and Runyon was their last names. Chase and Jacob, but Jacob Runyon, Chase Kaminsky was their names. They got just blatantly caught cheating in a walleye tournament. Now, the crazy thing about this is people had been accusing them of cheating for, man, quite a while. Like it had been going on for a minute. It wasn't something new. A lot of the people that have fished against them and everybody's like, no, they're not doing this. They got hundreds of thousands of dollars in prize money awarded to them in these tournaments that they're doing. Now, you know, there's a gentleman's agreement in the fishing world where it's a double-edged sword, because most of you are going to say, I've heard so many fish stories, it's not even funny. Nobody tells the truth when they're fishing. That's true. Like, I might come back and be like, yeah, man, I just caught an 8-pound bass. And then you look at it and like, I would be lucky to break 5. So those go on. But in the fishing tournament world, a lot of that stuff it's regulated, but a lot of it is based on a gentleman's agreement. You don't cheat. You don't even cheat. Like if I go out tomorrow and I enter a bass tournament locally here where the grand prize is, a pack of, Zoom lures or whatever it is, you be honest. Like that's an unwritten rule. You don't cheat. You don't cheat your fellow competitors. You don't cheat the sport. That's the big one. You don't cheat the sport, and you definitely don't cheat to win prizes. And these guys, they got caught. Blatantly got caught. They were fishing in a tournament last September when the weighmaster or the tournament official, I'm not sure what he was, weighed their fish. If you haven't seen the story, I mean, it's been everywhere. I'm sure you guys have seen it. There's been memes made out of it. Every content creator on the planet has made some sort of video making fun of the tournament cheaters, as they should have. But they ended up basically finding big, like, if I'm not mistaken, they were like 4-ounce lead weights, 2 in each fish. They were basically adding a pound to each fish because they found walleye fillets in there. They weren't just putting weights. They were actually catching fish, filleting them out, and stuffing the fillets down the gullets of these walleye that were catching. Well, of course, everybody went crazy. Like, these guys are going to prison forever. They're going to get busted for every tournament they've cheated in. They've been doing nothing but cheating in the last 2 years. And You're probably right. They probably have been doing nothing but cheating the last 2 years. But I said then, I said it on the Cameraman Ron channel. I'm like, these guys are not going to jail. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Hear me out before you jump in and start commenting. I said these guys are not going to jail, and they're not going to have any charges. Like, they might have charges brought against them, but they will not have any other charges that they will be found guilty of for any other tournament. And I said then there was no way that they could possibly bring charges on these guys for past tournaments, because in the United States of America, this great country that we live in, you have to have proof. You have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it happened. For past tournaments, there's no way they could do that. Now, I'm going to run through and I'm going to kind of read you just a synopsis here of what all happened to them. I mean, basically, they were found, they pled guilty. I shouldn't say they were found guilty. They actually pled guilty to the charges that were brought against them. Let me get it pulled up here. So basically 6 months probation for both of them. The kicker on that is after the 6 months of probation, they're not even really going on probation. I don't know if you understand how the court system works. They're basically having their sentence deferred, because as long as they go through their 6 months of probation, they don't have any issues whatsoever. This will be completely expunged from their record. They did lose their fishing license for 3 years. They're not allowed to own or obtain a fishing license for 3 years. In my opinion, that should have been a lifetime ban. I really don't feel like, but again, the punishment has to suit the crime at hand, not the alleged crime that happened. And then, of course, I can't remember which one it was. One of them had a $100,000 bass boat. Kaminsky, Chase Kaminsky agreed to give up his bass boat, which was worth $100,000. Now, this is essentially a slap on the wrist because a couple things could have happened to them here. First and foremost, the tournament that they were in, that they actually got caught cheating in, they stood to make $28,000 from that particular tournament. Had they made that money, had they got that money, they probably would have had a little bit more of a severe penalty against them. But because they did get caught in the weigh-in process, they were never paid out the money. So it was just basically they charged them with the act of trying to steal money, but it's not a violent act. So therefore it's not a felony. I can sit here and I can walk into your office, I can see $1,000 laying on your desk and I can try to pick it up. But if you catch me trying to pick that money up and you're like, hey, don't do that, I'm going to, kick your butt or whatever, and I leave and I don't take the money, there's really nothing you can charge me with. I didn't do anything violent. I didn't do anything bad. Now, if I picked that money up and left with it, then that becomes theft at that point. But because I never picked up the money, and that's kind of what happened with these guys. Yes, they cheated. Yes, they did get charged with a crime because they were attempting to commit theft, which they did not do, but they were not attempting to commit theft in a violent way. So same situation, if I go in with a gun and I draw it and then I get scared halfway in the middle of it and I don't rob the bank, that I can still be charged with attempted theft with a weapon. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but you get the gist of it. That's why these guys had such a light penalty. But I want to go back to another charge that they were trying to bring against them. The same prosecutor was trying to bring another charge against them for a past tournament. And I'm assuming it was the district attorney. They just gave the gentleman's name. They didn't really say exactly who he was, but essentially he told them, no, you cannot bring charges against him because you do not have any proof that this happened. We can speculate all in the world. It's no different than any other crime. When somebody finally gets, caught, whether they're robbing somebody or whether it's murder or whatever it is, you can guarantee that person is going to get charged with that crime and they're going to be convicted of that crime. The issue is you can't just assume that, 14 streets on that or 14 stores on that street got robbed. He did them all. That unless you have proof that person hit all of them, you can't charge them with them. And it's no different for these guys. Did these guys probably cheat in every tournament they've been in the last 2 years? Yes. Without a shadow of a doubt. I am not defending them. I'm 100% saying yes. Without a shadow of a doubt, I almost guarantee you these dudes cheated. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to something like cheating, unless there is money changed hands. Now, for instance, if they were paying off officials or something like that, 100% you can go back and you can charge them with that. There's a paper trail. You can prove that they cheated in those tournaments. The issue with these two guys, there's no proof. These fish are gone. With what they were doing and how they were cheating, there is no possible way to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, shadow. I don't know what a shadow is. A shadow of a doubt that these two guys were cheating in other tournaments. Were they? Yeah, 100% they were. I'm not defending them. Without a shadow of a doubt, let me say that one more time. They were cheating in these other tournaments, but you cannot prove it unless you could go back and figure out a way to look at the fish they weighed in and have a forensic scientist or something like that just absolutely prove that they were. And even still, there's no burden of proof there. So there's no way they were going to get them. I mean, even on this, I can't even remember exactly what it was. I read through the whole story there on Fox News a little bit earlier about it. But is it a fair punishment? In the eyes of the law, yes, it's fair. Morally, no, I don't think so. I think these guys probably should have had, at the very least, in my opinion, I feel like they should have gotten a lifetime ban. And maybe they did from tournaments. I'm sure they're never going to be allowed to compete professionally again. I don't know what professional fishing tournament would possibly be crazy enough to let these guys enter into a tournament of theirs. And I don't even know that that's something really that's going to be controlled by law. I firmly believe that these guys should never have been allowed back on the water for the rest of their lives. I think it was that serious. It would have been one thing had they made a mistake, and it was something that was not intentional. There's a intent is everybody says it doesn't matter if you didn't know you were breaking the law, you were still breaking the law. That is very, very true. But I also say there's not a prosecutor or anybody out there that's not going to take that into consideration if that's truly what happened. If you truly broke a law that you did not realize you were breaking, even though that they say that ignorance is not bliss in the eyes of the law, I still feel like in certain situations, DAs, prosecutors, stuff like that, they're going to take that into consideration. This is not one of those times. This is not something where you could roll up with an extra pound of weights stuffed down in 5 different fish and be like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't do that. Like, come on, that's complete BS. So there's no way that there was not intent. So in my opinion, given the circumstances of what they did for this tournament, obviously, like I said, you cannot go back. You cannot look at older tournaments because those tournaments are irrelevant in the eyes of the law because they cannot prove that they did anything wrong. They don't have those fish. They don't know. They can't go back and look and see if there was weights in the bellies of those fish. But this time they got caught. They did not take any money for the time that they got caught. Therefore, the penalty was pretty light, in my opinion. I mean, he gave up a $100,000 boat that he did not pay for. He won. I'm not sure. It didn't really say, like, that's weird to me though, too, because he just surrendered it. So maybe that was just part of his plea deal when he's like, look, I'll plead guilty. I'll give back the boat. And then this all just goes away. You give us 6 months probation, slap on the wrist, and when we move on with our lives. So maybe that's why, because it didn't really go into the details. I know that there was a lot out there about how he obtained that boat. It was a tournament won boat. So it wasn't something that he bought. It was something that he did win through a tournament. He did have to relinquish that. Other than that, I didn't even see a single thing in there where they had to pay back a penny. Like, not one. I could be missing it. And you guys leave a comment down below if you think I'm wrong. But, and I could be, because like I said, I read the story, but I don't see a single thing here that says that they were charged or had to pay a fine. I don't think they had any out-of-pocket costs. They would have received over $28,000. They did not. I don't think there's a single fine associated with it other than surrendering the $100,000 boat that they won. That was not their money out of pocket. So these guys literally got off with a slap on the wrist. But like I said, I will say, I said from the very beginning, and I don't get on here and tout about being right very often, but I had a lot of friends who argued with me on this. And they're like, no, man, these guys are going to get the book thrown at them. You can't do that, and that's just terrible. I agree. Everybody misconstrued what I was saying. I never said that they shouldn't have the book thrown at them and go to jail. Or not my words. I said they should have. My point was, will they? And I said, no, they will not, because there's no way that they can prove that the money that they made they stole the money. If they're fishing in tournaments and they cheated, they stole that money. In order for them to be convicted of stealing that money or to even have charges brought against them to put it in front of a jury, they would have to have proof that they stole that money, and there was none. The only proof is assumption. And assumption is not proof. As any of you out there know, you can't just assume that someone did something and that's it. You have to have proof, especially in a court of law. And so exactly what I thought would happen happened. Now, again, is it fair? No, I really don't think. I don't think the punishment fit the crime, but I think the crime couldn't be proven. I think that's the issue you're looking at here today is just you can't prove that they cheated if you didn't catch them in the act. That's the one thing about a cheater. They have to be caught in the act in order for it to be proven. And those guys definitely got caught in the act. At least they're not going to be fishing tournaments anymore. Like I said, I didn't see anything in there about tournament fishing. I cannot imagine. Like, I'm running through that. That's why I wanted to kind of skim back through the story real quick. I had it pulled up on my phone. I cannot imagine for a second that any fishing tournament in this country would allow them to enter it. So maybe that's just a given. They didn't need to ban them from a law perspective, and maybe they couldn't. I mean, they may not have even been able to not allow them to fish in tournaments. But I just can't see a professional tournament of any caliber, whether it's on a local lake, up in Erie, Pennsylvania, or if it's, the Bassmaster Classic like we just had this past weekend. I just don't see anyone ever allowing them to fish professionally again. And they're not allowed to fish at all for the next 3 years. I guess technically they could still fish on private land because you don't have to have a license to do that. So, I assume that they could do that. I wonder what would happen if they got caught fishing without a license. Like, it's surely to goodness they're not stupid enough to attempt that. But that's what like is in my mind. Like, what would happen if they got caught fishing without a license? Y'all leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. I think it's a slap on the wrist. I don't think it's a very serious punishment for the assumed crime, but I think it is a fair punishment for the proven crime. And that sucks. That's kind of one of the loopholes in our justice system. You can assume that somebody did something wrong, but unless you can prove it without a shadow of a doubt, you are never, ever going to be able to prosecute that person. And the DA said so as much as self. Guys, I truly hope you enjoyed this one. I just want to give you a quick take on this. I truly appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're not subscribed here to more, Boy, I was about to go into that end rhythm and I just got myself a little off kilter. If you are not subscribed here to the Morning Vibe, make sure you jump in, take a 4-ounce weight and jam it down on that subscribe button the way Chase Cominsky did into that walleye up in that tournament. Guys, I can't wait to see y'all on the next one. Y'all take care, and we'll see y'all soon.